Hi everybody, this is Lee, and with this video I'm talking about the concept of vanguards in society, people who are so far ahead of their time that it takes a while for the rest of the society or the community to catch up to them in their thought, in their speech, in their culture that they want to bring. Whoopi Goldberg was such one. Her dreadlocks in the 80s, they weren't so common in North America back then, and so people didn't really understand them or why she wore them, and how she got her hair that way, and people perceived it as a threat almost. Sometimes it was perceived as something to mock. Whoopi Goldberg was ahead of her time. By the time the 90s rolled around, people figured it out, and so more people started to wear dreadlocks just like Whoopi. She was the vanguard. People followed her and wanted to be like her. But it took a while. And in the meantime, she did get, mocked and sometimes laughed at and attacked for her appearance, which was unusual for that time. And then also, she was so high profile, playing lead in stage, film, and television. And so she was terrific, and people have finally caught up to her. And now many people wear dreadlocks. It's no longer a firing offense in corporate America. It's very common to see men and women wearing locked hair. And so that's good on Whoopi that she remained unapologetic and she remained true to herself even when she was by herself in many regards. So if you see Whoopi, give her props. I know that I will. And so regarding the vanguards today, those who actually had the courage to view Barack Obama for who and what he really was, and not for who and what he portrayed himself as, and for what the mainstream media portrayed him as. There were three men at least. There were likely more, but three men stand out to me. Tavis Smiley, Cornel West, and Ajamu Baraka. These three men held Barack Obama accountable for his decision making, the policies of his administration, and the results and the impact and effect on poor people, the vulnerable in our society, people of color, people around the world as well, who actually suffered some of the decision making of the Obama administration. And this holding to account started in 2008, the very first year of his presidency, and it's continued to 2016. Well, we give props where props are due, but when there is criticism that's merited, then that criticism is delivered. And it was hard for people to accept that. It was hurtful to hear that the very first black president was willing to hurt other black people to maintain his position. And that is the reality of what we're faced with. We have to admit that in many respects we were hurt by Barack Obama's decision making that was very pro-corporate and very anti-poor. And this began immediately with the bank bailout as a result of the mortgage crisis, the foreclosures, the need to bail the banks out, but not the homeowners, and the resulting fallout from that during the recession, where many people had their homes taken away from them and were left with nothing, and they became either very, they had a very precarious living situation, or they were actually homeless, or they suffered in other ways too, including like job loss, or just a very drastic reduction in income that made things worse. And so the Occupy Wall Street movement rose up. Jill Stein rose up. People were protesting this income inequality. And because Jill Stein was excluded from the debates, it never really made it to the national discussion. Occupy Wall Street was ridiculed as being disorganized and with no point and no purpose. And while that became the focus of the discussion, income inequality was kind of brushed by the wayside. And this happened in 2008 too, as well. Cynthia McKean was the Green Party candidate. She was excluded from the debate. Um, uh, let's see, and so that didn't make it into the discussion either. John Edwards was the only Democratic primary challenger that mentioned poverty or income inequality. He was the first to leave the primary, and so that left Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and racial issues took over the discussion. No one really bothered to talk about income inequality or class or work conditions or jobs, things like that. And so people got left by the wayside. In 2008, Tavis Smiley actually took so much blowback from criticizing Barack Obama from his lack of focus on poverty issues, income inequality, that he actually stepped down from his position as a commentator for the Tom Joyner Morning Show. That's how harsh Black people attacked Tavis Smiley for criticizing Barack Obama on his lack of focus on the poor. And, you know, Cornel West was also very critical of Barack Obama, too. 2009, he said, you know, how can you be a war president while holding a peace prize? And that dichotomy, after Barack Obama was given the Nobel Peace Prize, and we, you know, 2016, hindsight is 2020 vision, we have to say, was that appropriate for that prize to be awarded for that purpose and in that category to Barack Obama? And so these are two men that saw through a glass clearly while others were seeing through a glass darkly. And the Black community was very defensive of Barack Obama. The primary challenge against Hillary Clinton had been so harsh and so racially charged that the Black community rose up to defend him and continued to defend him all throughout his first term of presidency, even while their income levels fell, while there was so much poverty, there was still mass incarceration. The highest rate of mass incarceration was in 2013 during the second term of office. And you know, there were more men, you know, African American men and women locked up in the private prison industry underneath Barack Obama's administration than any other previous president. So this is what, you know, people were looking at, and some were reluctant to speak on it, but then others were not reluctant and they spoke on it. Cornel West used very direct language. He was very illustrative in his language, did not spare Barack Obama, holding his feet to the fire, holding Barack Obama accountable for the things that he did and the things that he didn't do. And so Tavis Smiley and Cornel West actually joined together to host a television show together, Smiley and West. No, I think it was a radio show, Smiley and West, speaking on progressive issues such as these. They even wrote a couple of books together, went on tour, speaking on income inequality and poverty issues, and that was like the 2011-2012 period. And I think their purpose was they wanted to highlight these issues in order to pressure Barack Obama in order to address them. There was even talk of maybe Barack Obama needed to be primaried in order to be reminded about the poor and the vulnerable and the needy in our society, since he had been making so many pro-corporate decisions. 2012 and, you know, the Occupy Wall Street movement had already occurred. Barack Obama was against Mitt Romney, And again, poverty issues didn't really enter the national discussion. Jill Stein had been excluded from those debates, the Green Party, and so it didn't really make it into a national forum. The Occupy Wall Street movement was ridiculed, and so it was considered a joke, income inequality. And, and this leaves Ajamu Baraka, who also spoke on Barack Obama and the fact that he did use harsh language, considered harsh, but some would say it is descriptive. And so the reason being that Barack Obama actually went out of his way to undermine a world conference on racism, and he delegitimized that conference and undermined it and undercut the effort. And Ajamu Baraka had been an organizer, and so that did not go over so well. And then also the increasing of the drone strikes on the continent of Africa, the constant terror from the sky against both military targets and civilians. Let's see, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Libya, and the list is just very long and vast of the constant military presence in the Middle East, in the Horn, and then also Central Africa Republic, Congo, Sudan, places like that, Somalia. And just the constant military attacks from our nation upon the continent of Africa, destroying the lives and the homes and the culture, women and children, brown and black people. And it just did not sit well that this was a black president who was authorizing this use of force, this constant use of force. And then also the constant regime changes in the Caribbean, Central America, and South America too, largely directed by Barack Obama's State Department. And so just constant aggression, destroying nations from the inside, from the outside, overthrowing regime changes, creating chaos and mayhem, and then acquiring power and taking resources, such as, for instance, the constant destabilization of Haiti, and then taking of gold mine contracts from Haiti, among other things. And so people look at that and, Tavis Smiley, Cornel West, Ajamu Baraka, and they just say, we recognize you as a brother, but then there are things that we do not recognize. And so we come today to what's happening with the Dakota Access Pipeline. The fact that Barack Obama was silent for so very long, and then when he finally spoke, he just said, let's see how it plays out. Very indifferent and apathetic to actual terrorism being used against our own Native American population. The fact that he took his time showing up to see about the Louisiana flood victims, the fact that he was so judgmental and stern and almost indifferent towards the plight of the black men who had been shot in our streets, unarmed black men, and the resulting emotional impact on their families. We see all this, and it took a hard time or a long time for people to kind of catch up to the vanguards who saw what we're seeing now, and they understood it 8 years ago. It took some of us up until 2016 to see things as they really are. And so, we give props. Some people don't do things like that for the props because often it results in attack and blowback to actually speak the truth as you see it when it's not a popular time to do so. But some things we do, if we're about saving our own lives and saving our own communities, we have to see things for what they are and acknowledge things for what they are in order to fix these situations and improve them. The first the first step is to actually admit that there is something wrong and that something actually needs to be fixed and something needs to be done. So, look to the vanguards, the people who actually dare to speak the truth. It's hard to hear, it's hurtful. There's a lot of denial, and we get to the truth at different times, and you know, when we're able to get past the first line of defense, and then only then can we fix what needs to be fixed. But what I'm saying is that it does not seem productive to spend our time and energy defending a president when we should actually be defending ourselves. And I think that's where we are right now, that we should take care of our own lives and our own communities rather than expend our time and energy defending that which is indefensible. We need to take care of ourselves. If someone brings a bill or there's something that comes due for whether it's Hillary Clinton or for Barack Obama, then they pay their own bill. We don't pay that bill for them. We take care of ourselves. And that's a hard truth. It's a hard truth, but we have to look at our own lives. And, look at the vanguards that tell us what we need to know. It's good to absorb these points of view, no matter how much they hurt, to see things as they are, to see through the glass clearly, not darkly. Good luck.